Can't wait for y'all to see this and listen to this podcast. I'm sitting here with my buddy, Jimmy John. We're going to talk life, and we're going to talk about what it's like to hunt the good Lord's renewable resources right here on A Bone to Pick. Hello, and welcome everyone to this podcast, A Bone to Pick with Waddy, or Michael Waddell, whichever one you want to call me. This podcast is brought to you by Bushnell, the official optics of Realtree. You know, it's hard to believe Bushnell is celebrating 25 years since the innovation of the hunting laser rangefinder. A Bone to Pick podcast is also brought to you by the fine people at Chevrolet, the Chevy Silverado Realtree Edition, featuring authentic Realtree camo pattern accents and graphics. Chevy Silverado is the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. This podcast is also brought to you by the best camo patterns in the industry, Realtree. You know, I got my start with Realtree, and Realtree continues to keep me hidden. Also, this podcast, A Bone to Pick, is brought to you by BoneCollector.com, where you can get all your Bone Collector swag. All right, enough of who brought you this and that. It's time to get out this big old chunk of meat and get it off the bone. That's why we call it A Bone to Pick. Well, Jimmy, buddy, I've said it before, but you're the one friend that I feel like that I've known for years and years, because you have friends that are my friends that have told stories about you, and then plus I realized that you were a hunter. And then just this past January, we had a chance to meet through Clint Boyer, mutual friend of ours, retirement party. And dude, I come walking up and I think I hugged your neck and said, dude, I feel like I've known you forever, and I'm so glad to meet you. And it's almost like we were long lost brothers or something. And obviously had a chance to come hunting up here at your place at Booner's in Illinois and hang out with Mark Wimpy and all the guys. And so I just want to say, it's cool that when you think somebody's a certain way and you meet them, they're exactly like you picture. So it's just been awesome to get to know you, man.
Oh, well, that's awful nice. Yeah. You know, it's funny that you say that you thought you knew me, because I thought I knew you. And so when I saw you, I'm like, oh, hey, Michael, how you doing? You're like, oh, hey, Jimmy, how are you? And like, we did know each other. But it's amazing. It's amazing how that happens. And that's just a stroke of luck, you know?
No doubt, man. And then it went further, because I got to talking, and obviously at that particular party, man, there was all these cool people there from Blake. I know Gwen came, Guy, all these friends of yours, and some that I knew, some I didn't. And then as we got to just hanging out, it literally was like, I don't know, man, it was just like a Boy Scout camp, but a megally fun time. You know, Travis came, and also you surprised Clint. And holy cow, you had Vince Neil show up to put on a concert. And so obviously you had Travis come there. And one thing that blew me away, and I had to pinch myself, and I wonder if it ever happened to you, because if you look at it, I got to thinking about me being there. Yeah. I'm just this turkey caller guy who loved to hunt and fish. And of course, most everybody there loved hunting and fishing the outdoors. In reality, you this guy, that's the sandwich guy. And then here these guys are in your Rolodex. I mean, does that ever hit you to think that, holy cow, this is surreal that this is my life? And of course, your beautiful wife, Leslie, was there, and we were just having such a good time. I mean, what is that like? Did you ever think you'd just call up Motley Crue and like, hey, man, having a party, you want to come hang out?
Well, you know, it's interesting. But it's a great question. You know, because when just talking about Vince is my neighbor in Leapers Fork, Tennessee, and Vince is a huge NASCAR fan. Right. And I was talking to Vince. I said, I'm going to Clint Boyer's retirement party this weekend. What are you doing? And he said, I'm not doing anything. I said, how'd you like to come and play? And he said, are you kidding me? He said, for Clint Boyer? He said, you know Clint Boyer? This is Vince Neil. I'm like, well, yeah, he's one of my best buds, man. And so Vince said, well, shit, I'll come play for you. And so Vince came, and it was just like that. And he came and played the show. But Vince was equally as excited to play as you know, and Clint was a huge fan of Motley Crue. So, you know, that just worked out. But as far as you know, the Rolodex and meeting people. You know, I'm 57, and I made sandwiches for 35 years before I sold the business in 2019. So I had an opportunity to meet a lot of people, mm-hmm. and what I found really that people that have been through the journey to get to a place where they have some measurable success or some perceived success, you know, they have a lot in common, and what is in common is a lot of hard work, a lot of hours, a lot of failures, a lot of betrayals, a lot of, that's not the deal I thought we had, But if you look at any of these, if any people that are uber successful, like Blake or yourself or Gwen or Clint Boyer or Vince Neil or
right.
So I think we all have that thing in common. We've been through the trenches and been through the fires and been through the wars, and I think that really brings out the authenticity in a human being, and I think that to have some success and some authenticity and some real is that's nectar. That's what it's about, because it's not about the work. It's not about the stuff. It's about the hard work and the journey and when you've been through it, I think that we have that in common. And so being as old as I am, to have a Rolodex with I think it just comes with the territory, and it is what it is. And I don't know what just came to mind. I think I just saw a Bass Pro hat over there, but I was thinking about like Johnny Morris and
right.
And Johnny's he's a beautiful guy. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but no, I don't really. Do I pinch myself? I just when where I really at that particular event at Clint's party. I had Blake is singing a song, and he's singing, and his wife, and they're singing together, and I'm sitting at a dining table, and when I was sitting there at that, I was at that moment, it was incredible, that moment of the beauty of those two artists doing their magic. It's like watching you call a turkey. It's like watching them do their thing, so. Just to be able to be in a place like that, and to hear them sing like that, and to be around folks that have that's really, really special. It's really really special. And our common bond is that we've all been through the battles, and that's the common bond. The common bond isn't we all have a Cadillac. The common bond is we survived.
Yes, that's true.
We survived.
Sometimes we survive. We're still limping, but we survived.
Yeah, but we survived. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Well, you're exactly right on all that. I feel so much of the same, because obviously, when you look and you think about success, for me, I remember when I first started having an opportunity just do some outdoor television programming. I remember getting a chance to meet people that I very much admired, looked up to.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, at that point, I was very insecure about like, holy cow, man, I'm not meant to be here. I'm not meant to be at this social gathering. And, I'm this kid from Booger Bottom, I don't know how to exactly say if it's supposed to be. It's funny, I was like, before all these pronouns, well, hell, I was messing it up before then anyway, because I was saying words wrong and different, being from the South with a thick Southern accent. My dad, who made me make sure I ate all the, waited on the catfish when it came out, all you eat catfish before you ate any slaw, so you got your money's worth. So now I'm around these, like you said, uber successful people.
Yeah, what kind of wine you want? Cold.
Yeah,
cold
what kind of wine you want? What do you want for appetizer? I remember the first time I remember
remember
seeing people order appetizers. I can't wait to leave the restaurant so I can call my dad and tell him about these people eating before we ate. Like, that just blew my mind, right? And so for me, there was a certain amount of insecurity, but I think what you just said is the same thing that I saw. I found in actuality, even though I'm this kid from Booger Bottom, or let's say, you got a Johnny Morris there, who obviously is very successful in vision. It's somebody like yourself. It is a Vince Neil. Maybe it's Kid Rock. It's Bobby sitting over there with a six string or whatever it is. And then you realize that almost the level of comfort of being around these people is easier than maybe at the local Kiwanis Club, meeting where everybody's, throwing around that maybe they did just get a new Cadillac, because they have more insecurities than, say, a Vince Neil.
Sure.
Or more insecurities than a Zach Brown, because they have nothing to prove. They say what they want. They do what they want. They mutually respect. If there's something you do that's stupid, they're going to call you out on it. And I found that even though I thought I might not fit in, well, I just jumped right in there, and it felt so good. And I'm sure there's a part of that you felt the same, that it was easier being around these people that maybe at the beginning you was nervous to even meet.
Yeah, I think once again, I think that I mean that's so honest, you know.
Yeah.
It's so true. Meeting celebrities is for sure. I felt the same way. I'm like, I'm a sandwich maker. Yeah, I'm a fat kid from Cary, Illinois. You know, I'm dyslexic. You know, I graduated second to last in my high school class, and you know, and you know, I can't think of anything any less sexy living than making sandwiches and delivering them, you know, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, which I did. And so, yeah, I felt for sure, you know, for sure you feel that way. But the cool thing is, once you do meet, again, the common bond is we survived the battle.
Right.
And whatever your medium is, to survive the battle and make it through and then have it be your living, you know, that is the common bond. I mean, I can't think of any man that I've met maybe in my life more humble and more kind and maybe measurably the most successful than Johnny Morris.
Correct.
I mean, this is a guy that is just he is so sweet and so kind, and he loves human beings and he loves family and you know, I mean, you know, if you have iron jeans, he'll give you shit, you know, like,
yeah.
What are you ironing your jeans for, man? That's not what jeans are for, you know.
Right.
I mean, but yeah. So anyway, but it's again, we survived the battle, and here we are.
And speaking of your journey, obviously, you know, I said I thought I knew you, and I did, because I'd heard some of these friends of mine talking about you.
Yeah.
And then obviously I'm big time in the hunting world and I love it. And so I started seeing that, wait a minute, Jimmy John, the restaurant owner at that particular time, is a huge outdoorsman. And immediately, you know, from a standpoint of if you want to call it marketing, you never had to run an ad, you know, in an outdoor channel or call me and drop a Jimmy John commercial. You not only had me, but as soon as the diehard hunters know, well, guess what? Jimmy is one of us because he's a hunter. But I had a chance to listen to Theo Vaughn's podcast, and you were talking about the path and this journey. So many people, not only did they not know that you hunted, but I don't think everybody understood the true story of the success. And I thought that you and Theo talked about it masterfully well. And I wanted definitely to give some of the listeners and viewers here to hear you say how you did begin and how it started with the whole process of,
sure,
really, to be honest, getting out of your dad's home for the first time and figuring out how to pay your own electric bill.
Yeah, well, I'd love to share it. So I grew up in Cary, Illinois, and I was born in '64. And my father graduated. My father was mixed race. My grandfather was born in 1903 in New Orleans, and there was 5 brothers. And in 1910, my great grandfather brought those 5 boys to Chicago to break the color line, and they were skinned like mine. The sort of I'm just a little bit of, you know, I'm not black. I'm not, you know,
but
just
you're dark.
a little darker. Yeah. And but anyway, they changed their birth certificates and they combed their hair straight and they passed off as white. And then my father grew up in Chicago, was born in Chicago, grew up in Chicago, and he fought the Korean War. Came out of the Army and went to University of Illinois. My dad was the first Liautaud, which is my last name, to go to the college and get an education. So my father graduated college. He became a book salesman. He sold encyclopedias door to door, and he started that in '61. And he became a Midwest regional manager. And my father figured out that being a book salesman wasn't being a good salesman. He found out that the more doors that he knocked on, the more books he sold. So he said, well, I'm not really a book salesman, so I knock on 100 doors, I get 10 meetings, and with every 10 meetings, I can close 5 book deals. So he would knock on 200 doors. And so then he just started really counting how many doors he could knock on. And then once they promoted him, he realized that he was in the recruiting business. The more people he recruited, the more guys you could have knocking on doors. The more doors got knocked on, the more books they sold.
So statistics.
Yeah, statistics, 100% statistics. And then, so he did that. And then in 68, he started a plastic molding business. My dad was a plastic molder, and he borrowed some family money, was a plastic molder. And I remember in 72, we went bankrupt. And in 1972, we moved from a duplex home into a home that my dad built, and my mom and my older brother and I moved us all summer. And after we moved into this house, my dad saw us, he said, we're gonna have to sell the house, have to get rid of the house. And I was devastated. And when you're 8 years old, you know, a summer is a year and it's forever. And anyway, long story short, we didn't move out of the house, but we drank powdered milk, and I hate it. I hated powdered milk,
to
man.
this day.
To this day, man, I hate it. In 76, my dad went bankrupt again. And that time was the CB radio became hot, and my dad invented a CB antenna, and his top salesman, his top accountant, and his top engineer left and stole the idea and went and opened up a competing company. And he went bankrupt again. And so we went bankrupt again in 76. My dad came out of that bankruptcy and he said, I will never take out debt again. I'm going to get this paid off. And from that day forward, my dad was forced to learn numbers and learn to count and to learn to be an accountant. And he said, I'll never take on any debt anymore. So anyway, I was raised during that time. And then in 82, I graduated high school. And my mother came from Lithuania. When she was 12 years old, Russia invaded Lithuania. They woke up in the middle of the night with bombs being exploded. You know, they bombed out of their home. And my mom ended up 2 years on the run with my aunt, my grandma, and grandpa. And they ended up in a DP camp in Germany, came to Chicago in 1952.
Holy
So
cow.
that's some family history. So my dad's mixed race. My mother's a Lithuanian immigrant. And my mother in 1959, her picture's on the cover of the Daily Illini newspaper, which is the University of Illinois newspaper. And she's the homecoming queen as a freshman at University of Illinois. So my dad sees her picture, sees she lives at Lincoln Avenue Residence Hall, calls her up on the telephone and says, she says, can I speak to, her name was Gina Godaitis, and they got her at the residence hall. And he says, my name's Jim. I met you during homecoming. You said you'd have coffee with me. He never met her. Never met her before. She said, oh yeah, I remember you.
It's like Glenn Campbell in the Wichita Lineman song.
There you go. So anyway, she has coffee with him. The rest is history. Okay, they get married. So but that's how my mom and dad met. So this is their background. So anyway, a little earlier I told you about what my dad's year. So they met at U of I. He did the book things, bankrupt 2 times. So our household had a lot of love, but we had plenty of hugs, but not a lot of money.
Right.
And so come high school, I graduated second to last in my class. 3 months before graduation, my dad says, well, you're going to the Army, right? I said, no, Pops, I'm not going there. My big brother went in the Army. My little brother went in the Army. And my dad went in the Army. He just assumed all the boys would go to the Army. So I didn't want to go to the Army.
Right.
So, and I didn't want to go to the Army, Michael, because every time I got in a fight, I got beat up. I hated fighting. And my big brother is a fighter. My little brother was a fighter. And my dad was a fighter. And I'm just not a fighter.
Right.
And I just didn't know what to do in a fight, you know? So I was scared to go to the Army. I didn't want to go to the Army. So my dad said to me, I was dyslexic. So I couldn't read and comprehend. And I had a tough childhood. I was a fat kid, you know, I'm some big dude, but I was a fat kid. So I had a tough life. So anyway, my pop said to me, look, he said, you can't live at home when you graduate high school. And he said, but you can go to the Army. And he said, you can start a business. If you want to start a business, he said, I'll lend you $25,000. And he knew I loved to eat the Chicago hot dogs. He knew I loved that. And I love Chicago hot dogs and tamales like Portillo's. I love Portillo's. So anyway, long story short, Dad says, I'll lend you $25,000. I'll own 48%. You'll own 52%. So I'll have 52, I'll have 48. If it succeeds, okay, we're 48-52. If it fails, you go to the Army for 2 years and you don't have to pay me back.
Wow.
So that was the deal. So I graduate high school June of 82. I get in my car and I go visit hot dog stands all around where I live. And I visited 10, 20 hot dog stands, and 10 days, I knew what kind of equipment I needed to have. I knew what I needed to have on the menu, and I knew kind of how to lay it out. And so once I had that figured out, we didn't have Google, we didn't have iPhones. And so I went to the library, and I went to the library and got books, I got the Yellow Pages and restaurant equipment. And I found downtown in Chicago, in the West Loop, is Restaurant Row, storefront after storefront of used restaurant equipment. And I had my list of equipment, drove down there. Best price I got on equipment was $43,000. So I went to see my papa, and I said, hey, Dad, I need some more cash. And my dad said, really? How much more cash do you need? I said, well, you said 25, the equipment's 43,000. It was all used equipment. He said, no, son. He said, the deal's 25,000 bucks. So I'm like, shit, man.
I'm about to go to the Army.
I'm running out of time, right? I got to figure this out. Next weekend, I went and visited a buddy at Southern Illinois University, and it was just random. We went to the bar and we're drinking all night. And we went to this little sandwich shop at Southern Illinois called Booby Sandwiches. I walk in there, and there's a refrigerator and a meat slicer and a Coca-Cola branded refrigerator. It had beer, soda, meat, vegetables, all kinds of foods in it. But it was one refrigerator, a small little refrigerated a cutting board, make line, and a cash register, and they sold cans of pop and cans of beer. So I just went from fryer, steam table, milkshake machine, grill, griddle, fire extinguisher systems, all this equipment to no equipment. I said, sandwiches, I can do that, no equipment. So that I just connected the number of pieces of equipment to the cost, right?
Right.
So I started visiting other sandwich shops, or I went home, changed the sandwiches. I increased my circle. And at that time, Subway was not baking in their stores at the time. They were getting bread delivered every other day or something like that. But I stumbled on a mom and pop sandwich shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin that baked their own buns. And they baked this incredible fresh bun. And it was, I'd never had a fresh bun and a hand sliced meat sandwich before. And it was delicious. I'm like, damn, I got to figure out how to bake some bread. So I left Milwaukee. I went straight back to the same library, books on baking bread, and I baked bread in my mama's kitchen. So it's now July of '82. I graduated in June. Hot dogs till the end of June, switched to sandwiches. Middle of July, I'm going to do sandwiches. Got to figure out how to bake bread. Back to the library, books on baking bread, baked bread in my mom's kitchen, back and forth to the grocery store, baking bread, doing it back and forth. So anyway, a week later, I got bread that I like pretty good. Now I'm buying meats at the deli, going back and forth, making sandwiches. And about August, I had 6 sandwiches I liked pretty good. And I invited my whole family over, and they voted on 4. So I had 4 sandwiches that were family approved that they thought, these are pretty damn good sandwiches. So I had my brother Greg was coming out of the Army in November, and he was going to go to Eastern Illinois University. And I had 2 cousins, Steve and Mike, at Eastern Illinois University. So I thought, I'll go to Eastern Illinois University. I will open my sandwich shop, and I'll work there, and I'll prove to the university that I'm worthy of going to the university. I will build the business, then I'll sell the business. I'll go to college, and then after college, and I'll get a job and get a job.
So you was just trying at that time to make some ad money, just to say, selling something.
Yeah, I had to do something, and I needed some cred. I mean, I graduated second to last in my class. I wasn't going to get into college.
Right.
So I had to do something. My dad was serious about not living at home. My dad was tough.
Right.
My dad was tough. And so anyway, August, I drive down to Eastern Illinois University, and I rented a garage of a house. And the garage was a 2-car garage, and the house was converted into a Dixie Cream donut shop, and the garage had been a pizza joint. And there was a bar behind it, and a bar to the left of it, and a bar in front of it, and the pizza joint failed. So I rented that garage for $200 a month.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And then I went and found an apartment, and I came back to Cary, Illinois 3 days later with 2 leases. And my dad said, "You're serious?" I said, "Yeah, I'm serious." He said, "Okay, let's do it." So my dad, he opened me up a checking account, put $25,000 in it, and he gave me what was called a Safeguard Business System. It was a checkbook. And he opened it up, and it had a ledger, and the checks were on one side. And when you wrote a check, it was the date and to who it was and the amount, and it went onto the ledger, and you tore it out and signed it, and that was the check. And so my dad said, "Here's your checkbook. There's $25,000 in it. Here's our agreement," and we wrote up the agreement. And the buyout and what the interest rate was, which was 10% if I had to buy them out. And I went and I bought a used refrigerator, a used meat slicer. I bought a new oven. I bought a Sears chest freezer to hold my Jimmy John's bread dough. And my dad was so tight. I needed $1,000 to start up to have opening in so I could buy food when I was going to open. So I was down to the wire, getting ready, and I needed $500 for an ice machine. And my dad's like, "No, dude, the deal's the deal." So I had 4 sandwiches on my menu, $2.10 each, and I sold 25-cent Cokes for a quarter out of a dispenser. A Coke, no ice, for a quarter. It was cold. It was a 9-ounce cup of Coke, and I sold it for a quarter. 4 sandwiches on the menu, $2.10 each, 25-cent Cokes. My father said this. He said, "Jimmy," he said, "you pay for everything COD with that checkbook. And if you pay for everything COD with that checkbook, you live in reality. You pay for everything on delivery." So I opened up the store January 13, 1983. Got 4 sandwiches on my menu, 25-cent Cokes. And I got the checkbook, and I got 2 buddies. I'm working 4 days a week. One buddy's working 5 days. One buddy's working 5 nights. 5, 5, and 4 is 14 shifts. 7 day shifts, 7 night shifts. Pretty easy. So I took Monday, Tuesday day, Wednesday, Thursday night, and then I just fucked off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and drank beer and got drunk and did all the stuff that college kids do. And I had a blast for about a month. And one of them quit. So then I got 7 days a week, and I put the other guy on 7 nights a week. Meanwhile, I'm paying for everything COD, and we're going along. And so I ran 7 days and for about another 6 weeks, and I get a call from my night guy, and he says, "Hey man, I'm not coming in." I said, "Well, that's all right. What time can you be here?" He says, "No." He said, I'm not coming in." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Oh, dude, I'm done." I said, "I'm done. Why are you done?" He said, "Because you're an asshole."
No way.
Yeah. He said, "You're an asshole." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You're a shit boss, and I'm out of here." One thing led to another. He didn't come in. It was 4:30 in the afternoon. The store closed at 2 in the morning. So I stayed until 2 in the morning and closed the store. And I got up at 8 o'clock in the morning and went in the store and opened it. And so now it's end of March, early April '82. And I'm in the store open to close, open to close, open to close. So the first week I did open to close, I was physically wrecked. I was mentally, like
no sleep.
I mean, very little. And so that was the first week. But the second week, all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa. Remember, last kid to get picked in sports, bullied, poor, bankrupt. I mean, my whole life was just, it was one thing after another. And so, and all of a sudden, like after week 2, then week 3, I'm like, holy shit, I can work 7 days a week. I can work open to close. I can do this, man. By week 4, I start to know who my customers are. I start to know their names. I start to know what they want to eat. I start to, if they're chubby like me, they got a little extra mayo. If they're skinny like Cohen, I took the mayo off. Me and T-Bone probably like our sandwiches the same way, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, and I started, and for the first time in my life, I had a jam. Like it would my customers, "Jimmy, how you doing? Hey, Michael, how you doing?" I never had anything like this in my life. So I worked that whole April, May, and man, I just got into it, and I got into it, and then all of a sudden, as soon as I had it absolutely licked, May 15th, the students left, gone. And I'm sitting there in the sandwich shop. Students are gone for the summer. And Michael, I got to tell you, I'm sitting in the sandwich shop. I don't know what I'm going to do. And that checkbook's in front of me. And I notice in that checkbook, there's a column in that checkbook that says deposits and another column that says bank balance. So remember, I'm writing checks against this checkbook for 5 months, so from January to May.
Money out and the deposits in.
Yeah,
that's simple.
I was just writing checks. And then I had all the deposits in an envelope. So, and I've been writing checks against this account. And I started in January with $1,000 writing checks on the account. So anyway, I took all my deposit slips and in the deposit column, I entered them into the deposit column, and I started the semester with $1,000 because I had to save $1,000 for my initial food order. And I had an adding machine, so I took that in my adding machine and I subtracted the first check and added the deposit. And in one afternoon, from January to May, I brought my bank balance from January to May, and I started with $1,000, right?
Right.
Dude, I had $18,000 in the bank. I'm like, I'm a fucking millionaire. Holy shit. I got $1 million. I mean, I had $18,000 and I was 19 years old, bro. I'm 19 years old. As soon as I saw that shit and I figured out this bank balance, man, Once I got every day, Michael, every day that bank balance, I watched what made it go up and I watched what made that
No
bank
online
balance go
banking
down.
at that point. You just had to look at deposits.
Online
in
banking,
your ledger.
there was no such thing as online,
No,
Michael.
yeah,
this
nothing.
is 1982,
Yeah.
1983.
Online, yeah, it was before it even invented. Yeah.
Before it was even invented. So every day I watched what made it go up and what made it go down. And so really I became totally connected to that bank balance. That's what my dad meant by you pay for everything COD, you live in reality. But then I opened the business. What he didn't know, what he didn't tell me is, dude, he didn't show me how to. I just figured that bank balance thing out on my own.
Yeah.
So a couple things happened. One, I was really, really good at math, and that I could do, and two, I connected I became an accountant by default. And number three, I really enjoyed operations. I was a really good operator. I could work really long hours and I could do it really, really well. And I had to learn to do that because the guys that quit, they said, you're a shit boss. They should have quit because I took all the easiest jobs and I gave them all the tough jobs and all the tough hours. Okay. So when I realized that if I take the toughest jobs for myself, which I did, and take the toughest shifts for myself, which I did, and do all the toughest prepping, which I did, and if I did that, then what I learned is that my teammates did what I did, not what I said. So I learned that the people will do what I do, not what I say. So I just quit talking so much and I just started doing. And so if I would just take the toughest jobs for myself and lead by example. And then I was so comfortable with working 80, 90 hours a week that I only wanted to put people in the sandwich shop that really would do it the way that I did it. And if they didn't want to do it the way that I did it, I wanted to do it my way. So the hours were comfortable, and long story short, I ended up that first year, I did $150,000 in sales, made $40,000 profit, split it with Papa. And the second year I did $180,000, made $50,000 in profit, and split it with Papa. Got to remember, if I had any employees, I wouldn't have made shit.
You would have probably could have lost.
Yeah, or could have lost. But thank God those guys quit. Because that's why I had $18,000 in the bank, because I did all the hours myself. I worked, from 8 in the morning till 2:30 in the morning, 7 days a week. So that's how it started, Michael. And then so the first year we made 40, second year we made 50. I saved all mine, and then I bought my dad out in May of 1985. I bought my dad out, and I remember I had $25,000, and he said 10% interest. So 10% of 25 grand is 2,500. So I had exactly $30,000 to pay my dad off. So I actually went to the bank and got cash from the bank.
Wow.
And took the $30,000, went to see my dad, and I said, "Here you go, Dad." And he said, "What's this?" I said, $30,000. He says, No, son, compound interest. I'm like, "You're kidding me.
Compound
interest."
Dang,
he stuck me with another like $1,400. So anyway, I bought my dad out in May of 1985, and and that was it. I bought him out. And then I moved to Macomb, Illinois, and opened my second store. And the day before I opened that second store in Macomb, Illinois, the guy that was going with me, Billy Burns, who invented the Billy Club, the number 8, it's a sandwich on the menu, he got killed in a car wreck. Oh. So I delayed my opening a week, buried my buddy Billy, and I moved to Macomb by myself, and I did the same open to close thing all over again. But I knew that I could do it. I did it. My place was there. I moved to Macomb, Illinois. It took me 2 years in Macomb, Illinois to replace myself there. Replaced myself, got a third Safeguard checkbook, went to Champaign, Illinois, opened up a store there, replaced myself there in about 9 months, got another checkbook, moved to West Lafayette, Indiana, opened up there, replaced myself there, and then after 10 years, I had 10 stores.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and then 1993, my accountant said, "You made $1 million this year." And so I had 10 stores. Oh, by the way, I saved up my money and opened a store. I didn't know how to go to a bank and get a loan.
So you wasn't going to the bank and getting these line of credits or these loans. You were just cash rolling it from money made.
Yeah, I would work in the store till I saved up enough money to open up another store. And I could open up a store, used equipment, doing a lot of the construction myself for 25, 30 grand. Mm-hmm. That's what I could do it for. So anyway, my accountant says, "Jimmy, you made $1 million." I'm like, "I made $1 million? So the million's in the bank?" He's like, "Yeah, the million's in the bank." I'm like, "So I'm a millionaire?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Shit, man, I feel the same. Same dude." Whew, okay.
And this is in the probably 80s?
No, this is 1993.
93.
1993.
That's when it's like, okay, I made the millionaire.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, I feel the same. I'm a skinnier than I am now. I work myself skinny, killing myself. But anyway, so I had 10 stores, and that's really how Jimmy John started. And then I started franchising it in 1993. 2003 was interesting. I hired some professionals to run the franchise business. I ran the company stores because the entrepreneur has to give up control and let professionals run it. So I hired professionals to run the franchise, and the dummies ran the company stores. So I kept running the company stores. So 1993 to 2003, I built up my company stores to 25 stores or so, something like that. And we built 200 franchise units by 2003. In 2003, we had 70 failing franchise stores. And the guy that's the president of Jimmy John's now, James North, was my right-hand guy. He said, hey, Jimmy, we need to stop selling franchises. And we got to go on the road and turn around these 70 stores. I said, what are you talking about? I really like these franchise fees. And I love getting franchise fees and not being there. And I think I was in denial. And I was just kind of, it was there, but it's like you're an alcoholic. Well, really? Or whatever. But I was in denial about this, man. And he said, no, Jimmy, if we don't turn around these 70 stores, we ain't going to have anything to sell. And I said, really? He said, yeah, really. So my kids Spencer was in first grade, Lucy was 3, and Freddie was 2, and I was 35. And I've been on the road already 20 years. And he wants me to go on the road with him again and turn around 70 failing restaurants. He said, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So I talked to Leslie, do it. So we went to turn around 70 restaurants and literally would go into a store, pull all the equipment away from the walls, clean the corners, clean all the air ducts out, all the fluorescent light fixtures with all the bugs and this stuff in them, clean out the corners, clean out everything off the shelves, clean it all, put it all back.
This is you and Northy in there doing this.
Yeah, just me and Northy doing it all ourselves, man. And really cleaning out the office, and then just bringing process and procedure into the store and following our written documented process and procedure. And so, the first one took 2 weeks, the second one took 10 days, the third one took 8 days, the fourth one took 5 days, and then pretty soon we got a reputation that when Jimmy and James are coming, it's a great experience. It's going to be difficult, but embrace it. So we earned the respect of the franchise community because these people were failing. So anyway, we did that, man. And in 15 months, we turned around 70. We turned around 63 of those 70 stores, and we shut down 7 of them. And that was 2003, 2004. And Michael, that was a changing point in my life and the Jimmy John's life. And here's what happened, Michael. The 25 stores that I had were making me $3 or $4 million a year, and I had no debt. I owned my house. We had a little company plane then. I had a 1981 Falcon 10 plane that I bought for $700,000. I paid for it. Wrote a check, paid for it, and then I had the franchise business. But our company stores could sustain the whole company at that time. Those company stores were just doing really, really well. So I changed it, and I said, look, if somebody's going to come open a Jimmy John franchise, I'm going to tell them the truth about the business. It's 24/7, 365. You're raising cattle. They don't just get sick during the week. It's nights, it's weekends, it's holidays, it's a lifestyle. If you want to do this, you got to understand what you're getting yourself into. And I told people the truth, total transparency about the business. And it made the training really difficult. 3 weeks in Champaign, Illinois. So that was 2004 where I fired all those professionals too that were running the franchise company, and those dummies took that over as well. I said, the franchisees don't need to like us, but they'll respect us.
That's right.
And we'll earn that respect. So like I said, like we talk about being with successful people, we've been through the battles, right? That's what we have in common, right? So I just started telling people the truth about the business. I said, no, you don't want to do this. And what I learned was that was the best sales pitch in the world. Oh, you'd like to buy this? No, you don't want to buy this.
You don't want it.
You don't want this. You don't want this car. No, you don't want to do this. So anyway, long story short, we started, it just turned the whole situation around. We had people that were very well prepared to do it and to be in the business. We had people that had the money to do it. They had the will to do it, and they had the will to do it my way. And so we got that thing spooled up, and shoot, we were opening 30 restaurants a month for almost 10 years.
Wow.
And I built it up. I ran that company until I started to really let off myself around 2014, 2016. I sold 30 points of the company, and my partners owned 28%. And I kept 35 points, 35% of the company. And then 2019, I got out completely, and I did a merger with Inspire Brands. They own Arby's, Buffalo Wild Wings, Dunkin' Donuts, and Sonic, and I merged in with that company. So I now have stock in that company. So that's how I exited. But when I exited, we had 2,800 and some stores open, and we had 3,000 stores in the pipeline, and we built it into almost $3 billion company. And all from, all bootstrapping it, man. All bootstrapping it. No, just all bootstrapping it. And things like, you laugh at your daddy and how he does stuff, right? And even when the company was that big, every bill that came in today, remember my dad taught me COD? Yep. Right up until the end, every bill that came in today got paid today, no matter what.
When he came in, stamp on it, back out.
Yeah, or transfer, or whatever it was at the time. And my policy in the company when I ran it, every email that came in up to 8 o'clock at night, you responded to. Every voicemail or voice message or text. So up to 8 o'clock at night, everybody was responsible to respond to it. Every complaint that came in today, we fixed today. We solved it today.
Wow.
So it's extreme sense of urgency, extreme on top of it. Totally difficult, but totally doable if you're willing to do what it was that we did.
Yes.
Which is, and then also in my business, it was so difficult to do what we did. In the end, I was doing like 1 million customers a day, and all I cared about was what was my delivery times today, how many complaints today, and and any catastrophes or I really looked at it, Michael, like I was only as good as how my lunch rush was executed today in the entire chain and the entire company. Mm-hmm. And that's how I look, it's because, I had been through such a battle for so long and so many years, and it was my money. It wasn't the bank's money. It wasn't partner money. It wasn't, it wasn't private. It was my money. And so that's the way I ran the business. And and I'll just, that's how it all happened. I'll tell you what made me get out of the business and what made me want to sell. And this is really gonna be a shocker to you. We had a community organizer become the president of the United States of America. God bless him. Okay, with all due respect, comes in as president of our country. I'm in business 25 years already. And I had a compensation program, Michael, where I gave my managers 25% of the profit of a Jimmy John's store. I paid him a base salary of just enough to get by, 36 grand, 42 grand for the assistant and the GM, and then 25% of the profit, and they split it 60-40. Average store was making $160,000. So they're cut $40,000. So let's say they each got 20,000 just to keep it easy. So they had 36 base plus 20, 42 base plus 20. So they're both one guy's making 55, one guy's making 65 grand a year, right?
Completely incentivized by your
totally incentivized
work ethic. There's a carrot.
And also on college campuses, when we ramped up, they ramped up, and summertimes they had to ramp down labor, and they got connected to the financials as well. And we had transparent financials. So what we did is we taught the managers what the financials were, how to read financials, and then they became business people, right? Well, the administration comes in and says, your managers have to make $52,000 base salary in order to be a manager. So we didn't blink because my assistant was making 52 and my GM was making 62. So we didn't even think anything of it. Next thing I know, this community organizer president that we had is putting his union bosses into judge positions with the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB, and he's doing favors, putting his people into these labor board judgeships. So he changes the definition of what a manager is, okay? Because I'm taking advantage of people. I got managers working for me for 15 years that have homes that are, that are living this amazing lifestyle, and all of a sudden
he changes the rules of the game. You remember, I got 3,000 stores in the pipeline that people they're ready to open and they're ready to do it. And the next thing we know, we got lawyers starting to sue my individual mom and pop franchisees around America for taking advantage of their managers. Then the community organizer leader that we had, with respect. This is not, I don't mean to be disrespectful. This is a guy who never flew an airplane that comes in and tells a guy who's been flying a plane 25 years how to fly a plane.
Right.
You know, you don't tell me how to take a plane through a thunderstorm if you haven't done it. And this is essentially what was going on when Obama was president. And I think his intentions were good, but the unintended consequences were, you know, he said, I got a store in Buckhead, Atlanta. You know Buckhead?
Oh, yeah.
In Atlanta?
Absolutely.
Runs 45 drivers for lunch, or 15 delivery drivers, 15 on bikes, and 15 guys running. 45 delivery people for lunch, 20 sandwich makers, and this store was probably our highest volume Jimmy John's store in the whole chain. The store was probably doing $2 million plus in sales, probably making $500,000 plus in profit. So the manager's making $175,000 a year, running a $3 million business with 75 employees. Well, that business didn't have 2 40-hour-a-week employees. Therefore, that guy was not a manager. Could you imagine that? This is Obama protecting the little guy. Well, all of a sudden, this guy's not a manager, so this store is being sued for taking advantage of a manager that's making $150,000 a year. So we said, wow. Then we start going to court with then Obama said, I'm a co-employer as well. So I'm responsible for these employees as much as the franchisee is. I'm 50% responsible, and that allowed the big law firms that pay a lot of money to lobby to come in and sue Big Brother and sue me. So anyway, long story short, we got in this major legal battle, and I ended up, you know, I so much enjoyed helping people succeed. I so enjoyed helping people be successful, teaching them how to run a restaurant, teaching them how to market a restaurant, teaching them how to go to the Little League games and sample, and go to the high schools and get in there and sample, and go to the local businesses and get catering contracts. And I spent my whole 20 years teaching, you know, mom and pop America how to make it happen in small town America. And all of a sudden, they're being sued. And so it was a labor of love to be in the business. But what happened was I just lost. It was personal to me.
It's a knife in the gut.
It's a knife in the gut. And so I couldn't take it anymore. And I made enough money. I had enough. But that really, and every time we went up in the National Labor Relations Board to court with the NLRB, we lost. They ruled in favor of the plaintiff and against the law, because they were all the people that he put in these judgeships. It was a big political game.
Mafia.
A full-on total assault. And but here, let me put a positive spin on it. Had Barack Obama called me for a meeting, and had he asked me to come see him the way you and I are talking right now, and had I shared with him how I started, why our stores are so successful. I mean, our little Jimmy John stores are doing like $800,000 or $900,000 out of a tiny, 1,000 square foot box, and how these people are making all. Had he asked the person flying the plane to show him and teach him what we were doing, he just assumed we were taking advantage of the people. Mm-hmm. So what made me get out of the business was I just the fun of it was gone. The fun of the people and the work and the teamship and the kinship and the spirit of it all was lost. And so I just thought that might be relevant. It may or may not be. You can decide what to do with it.
It is relevant, because it seems today that is kind of starting to spiral back out of control, and not that, it's a political thing. For me, it's not about politics, it's about reality.
Yeah.
And the one thing, getting back to, when we started this and I was talking about you, the one thing I loved about you, and it's amazing that same transparency went all the way through, that your security of being yourself and being able to talk about the success and the failures. And it's amazing that in the success, that now it seems that success is used to, it's like the most valuable player. Not that we needed that pat on the back, but when you did something that was, what you set your goal for, or maybe even the community said was successful, it seems like now success is being penalized. And I don't understand that. And really, in this situation, with this administration, they wasn't just penalizing you, they were penalizing a lot of people, including the people that they said they were supposedly trying to protect.
Yeah.
Nor do they take into consideration of this story of transparency, of seeing the numbers, seeing your work ethic and how it started. How many, can you only imagine how many at that particular time Jimmy John managers or maybe even assistant managers, delivery guys that opened up their own pizza place because they saw the system? They saw what you did. They knew that they weren't at the top. They knew that they had a limitation as to where they would go, even amongst the being able to the incentivize. Now, guess what? I'm sure you were the guy that says, go for it. You might lose, but at least you went for it, just like I did.
Yeah.
But there's no guarantee. You aren't entitled, nor are they. And that entitlement and the lack of being able to celebrate success, I think very well could be a downfall, not of a nation, but I think of humanity. Because you got to strive for something, and for me, that's what these relationships do. And even though I was talking about some of these personalities and celebrities,
Sure.
it's really not about that. But I'm intrigued by how did this guy, whether it's a Vince Neil, whether it's a Bobby, the Kid Rock, or a Hank Jr., or a Clint Boyer, what did somebody put into it? There's no way they got there by being entitled, because they didn't have where they're at now just naturally. They worked so hard. You know, having a conversation, I did a podcast earlier with Ted Nugent. I asked Ted, I said, was you always naturally born gifted guitar player? He said, hell no. He said, I played on the toilet. I drove my mom crazy. I drove everybody. I played every day till my fingers bled. And I taught myself how to be the best rocker on earth. And so that's not entitlement.
No.
And you wasn't entitled. And so anyway, that's just my,
Yeah, but you know
reply to
what,
some of
Michael,
that.
I think it's really important, because I can sit here and point a finger, and I really do believe, I believe this. I believe that Barack Obama is a wonderful human being.
I do too.
And I believe
I
he's
don't
a really
disagree with
smart guy. I don't think he talked. I think that there were unintended consequences. I think his intention was, let's equalize this thing and let's make it right. But what he didn't know is how right Jimmy John's really was. I've been doing it for 25 years. You know what I mean?
There was an honest ignorance there that he didn't know.
For sure. So I like to, yeah, and he has a reputation of being a good dude, but he just was I'm not going to come and tell you how to do your open heart surgery, to the doctor. You do that. I'll do the sandwiches. You do the surgery. Michael, you do the turkey calling, know. And so I think really, Michael, I'm older than you, but not a lot older than you. And but I think that overall, had he known what there was like 140,000 Jimmy John's employees, and we were literally opening 30 restaurants a month. We were, in Champaign, Illinois, I was doing something like 100,000 hotel room nights per year with trainees coming from out of town. Even Champaign, Illinois, home of University of Illinois, Jimmy John's sandwich shops doing 100. I remember seeing in the newspaper, Champaign tourism director gets Christmas bonus for increasing hotel occupancy in Champaign, Illinois. It's like,
Wow.
Bravo.
That's right.
Bravo, tourism director. It's quite a Democrat, liberal city, and they never interviewed me, and or they never, it was totally crystal clear to the town where all these hotel rooms are coming from, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to go to besides the college, which is it's a huge deal, but we next to the University of Illinois, we were the number one reason why people were coming to Champaign, Illinois. So, but anyway, it is what it is. But they were ignorant, and I think that there are unintended consequences, and that was them. And the people that bought us, it's not personal to them. They are strategic investors, and they're smarter than we were, and so they knew what they're doing.
They knew what they're doing, and it's still surviving. We had Jimmy John sandwich today.
They were good
Just before we started the podcast, and things that you're saying are hitting home with me too, because it hits me in the fact that for me it's not about conservative or liberal. It's about who is the most ignorant and who, puts most of their bet on a situational ethics. And that to me is the situation with that, because I do believe, and even though when we look at politics today, a lot of people will say that, no, there's no turning back, and, that might be the case. But I do believe, Luke Bryan's got the song, I believe most people are good. I do believe there's evil that certainly exists. It does. It says that in the Bible. However, when I think about things, this ignorance of just not knowing, which I want to use that ignorance to segue into talking about the outdoors and hunting.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of ignorant people. You know, most of the people listening to this podcast, you know, they've watched, you know, the Realtree road trips. They watch Bone Collector. They've heard about you killing this beautiful, huge elk that I'm sitting here in the Booner's Lodge right here, this big elk, 460 inches. But so there's that story, but there's a lot of people ignorant of that don't understand the good Lord's renewable resources and our ability to not only take from it, whether it's from field to table, but I think that there's such a situational ethics in that in the meantime where you got a free America, you got capitalism, and hearing you, and is it safe to say that when you started that, you weren't really financial driven? You was trying to make a living? Or were you saying, I'm going to start this sandwich shop and be a millionaire?
No, man, I was, Michael, I started, it was pure survival. You know, the old man was kicking me out of the house. I didn't want to go to the Army, you know, and it was fear. My whole thing was driven by fear, man. It was just fear driven. And then, you know, I told you, I had a really hard childhood, and I was quite, you know, I was a loser, you know, and I don't know if I was a loser. I was a kid with a lot of problems. And you know, so my motivation was fear-based. I never want to eat powdered milk again. And then once I started doing it, and then we turned around those stores, and my stores were doing so well, and I had plenty of money, and I had no debt. Remember, I didn't know how to get debt, so I didn't have debt, right? Ignorance is bliss. Yeah. And so it was really fear-based, man. It was really fear-based. And it's funny you talk about, you know, we were talking today, and as we rode over here to the farm, about how I had gotten into hunting, and I got to tell you, I was married and to my first wife, and we got divorced, and I wasn't a great husband, and so my wife dumped me, and so anyway, I was really screwed up, and my friend Jay Link, who was one of the sons of the Jack Link's beef jerky family. Yes. Jay, my head was up my ass. I mean, I was really twisted up with this divorce.
So emotionally distraught, just didn't know which way to.
Yeah, I mean, I was I never knew about divorce, you know, and here I was divorced, and it was devastating. I was screwed up. And Jay Link, he said, "Listen, I'm gonna take you hunting." He says, "Buy us a Remington 7 mag and learn how to shoot it. Get some rain gear, get a sleeping bag, and get a backpack." And get some hiking boots and hike in them, and meet me in Anchorage, Alaska, and I'm going to take you on a sheep hunt with Dennis and Cheryl Harms. So that was my first hunt. So I fly to Alaska to meet Jay.
First hunt's a sheep
First hunt.
That's awesome.
I'm going sheep hunting with Jay Link. It's like 1993. So I fly to Alaska. There's a note in my hotel. Bad weather coming in. I see you at camp. Somebody will pick you up tomorrow morning. So the next morning, somebody picked me up, took me to a float plane, flew me to camp. I think I'm going to see Jay. No Jay. Like, okay. So I'm at the camp. They said, okay, here's all your stuff. Now go through all your stuff and just take what you need. I'm like, well, this is what I need. Well, it won't fit in this Super Cub. And I'm like, what? They're like, well, you just get, take what you need. I'd never done this before. So I just took what I needed, and they said, okay, we're going to drive you to this riverbank, drop you off, and then we'll bring your guide in next. There's a barrel. When you land, take the cap off the barrel and pull the stuff out of the barrel, and your guide will come in after you. So I go get dropped off on a riverbank. There's a barrel, and there's a bear track in the sand about this big. I'd never seen a bear before. I'm like, holy shit, what is this? So anyway, my guide flies in, and so we camped on the riverbank, and we slept until we went to sleep, and we got up at like 2:00 in the morning. And before we went to sleep, he found some sheep up on the mountain through the spotting scope. So we slept until 2:00 in the morning, and I don't know why it never got dark. It was light. 24, wow, yeah. Right? 20. So we got up at 2 in the morning, and we proceeded to hike from the river through the bog, through the shin tangle and through the woods, and then up the shale and to the sheep. And we got to the sheep that night, and I think I shot the sheep at 9:00 that night. I shot him in the ass, but it killed. I went right up the ass and dropped that sheep.
Texas heart shot.
And so went up there and butchered the sheep, and then he loaded my backpack full of stuff, and man, I made it about 100 yards, and I'm like, man, this is tough stuff. And then it was late, and we were tired, so he had a fly, and he put up a fly, and we slept under the fly. We didn't have sleeping bags. We slept under the fly,
and it rained that night. And so he slept high, I slept low. So if you ever sleep under a fly with a guide and you're new, don't make sure you sleep high, because I slept in the puddle. He slept in the dry spot. So his name was Walt Rowe. So anyway, so we killed the sheep and came down the mountain, and woke up the next day and climbed down the mountain and got a sheep, and that was my bug, man. So that hit me. I think the sheep hunt was $7,000. That was probably like
Wow.
$7,000. Yeah, so that was my first hunt, was a Alaska Doll sheep with Dennis Harms, and
But immediately you were like, I'm digging this.
I'm digging this.
Yeah.
I'm digging this. That climb, being in the mountains, pulled my head out of my ass. It cleaned my head out, and yeah, it was life changer for me, man.
It's like Mother Nature was a psychiatrist that you had needed the whole time.
Oh my God, it was just incredible, man. It was incredible. And I had never, I knew about whitetails, and the Lynx were big whitetail deer hunters, but I'd never done that before, and but that's how I started with Jay. And then in 1994, 1995, we shot stone sheep with Calvin Kostanek. And then in like 1996, we hunted bighorns with Pete up in Alberta. What was Pete? Out of Grand Cache. We shot bighorns. And then when Mexico opened up for desert bighorns, we shot our desert bighorns in Mexico, and we had our Grand Slam. And I went on a Marco Polo hunt in 1997. There was no phones, no sat phones. There was nothing. I went and I remember flying in Dushanbe, there was a civil war going on.
I was going to say the civil unrest is maddening.
Yeah,
and you're going to hunt a sheep.
Yeah,
Like if I lost my mind, you got to be thinking that, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that was 97, and remember I told you in 2000, then I had my stores, building the franchise company. So that was in my denial. Remember, I was in denial
Right.
of those franchise fees. I was hunting and I was having a good time. But anyway, yeah, 97 is when I went to do the Marco Polo. But anyway, that's how I started hunting.
That's so cool. You know what's neat about hearing your story is almost like you never hear anybody have that, to where you start with sheep. Like most of all the hunters I know start with, yeah, man, I had a BB gun, squirrel hunted, and then rabbit hunted. And that led to maybe it was a pheasant to a deer.
Yeah.
And then the deer, and like for me, that was kind of that order that led to the whole time I'm envisioning maybe get to go sheep hunting one day.
Yeah.
But it sounded like Jay got you just kind of like, okay, first hunt, you're going big, but it sounds like he also knew enough about you to know I need to get this cat to the mountains. Not about trying to put a tag on a sheep. First of all, it sounds like at that particular time, if you follow the timeline, you could afford some travel to try some new adventures. So
Sure.
for you, I would imagine this sheep hunt wasn't about just to kill a sheep. It was about an adventure to do something that your friend Jay Link was doing.
Yeah, I mean, it was trust your buddy.
Yeah.
Here, drink this. Okay.
Yeah,
Are you
exactly.
sure? Yeah, you'll be all right. It was one of those, and then they started inviting me to their deer camp. They had a deer camp in northern Wisconsin, and then all the old guys would stand and all the young guys would push the bush.
Yeah.
And if it had horns, it was down.
down.
So, we got a spike and a 6 and a forked horn. And, if you got an 8-point, it was a big deal. And that's how I started deer hunting at the Jack Link's hunting camp up in northern Wisconsin, man. And we did every year at Thanksgiving, man. We'd go up there and I remember, I was semi old enough to maybe stand, and then I could stand, once in a while and try to shoot a running deer. And I'll tell you what, you shoot a running buck, that's
Especially in that country, because it's brush country. You had to pick a window. You see him here and just anticipate that maybe he'll come out 60 yards on this side.
the deal.
Yeah.
You know the deal. And so that was the start of it, and with Jack at his hunting camp, and then they had hounds, and they would run bears and black bears, and so I did that, and all the baits and the mess and the baits and the donuts and the syrup and the oil and all the different baits and the hounds, and they were really into it, and they're really into
Right.
it. So I'm not as into it as they are, but they're really into it. So anyway, but that's what got me started.
That is so
was the
cool.
Link boys, yeah.
And how quick, like especially at this, Jack Link's or Jay and those camp in Wisconsin, how quick did you fall in love with the camp? Because I can only imagine. I grew up in the South.
Yeah.
But in my mind, when I think of the South and deer camps, for me, when I see even some of the shows and stuff, the northern deer camps were the bomb. I mean, the cook, the food, the stories, and I've always said the campfire at these deer camps, it's the only place that a young kid can come and lying is almost celebrated, like the exaggeration. So, you know, I always say around a campfire in deer camp, you hear a lot of stories, some of which are true. How was that? Did you quickly fall in love with that?
Oh, listen, the deer camp, the best part of hunting was the people and the camaraderie and the camp and the meals and the bacon and the campfires and the whiskey and it was, oh my God, the only thing different between a southern camp and a northern camp is your damn accents.
That's it.
We can't understand you guys.
It's unbelievable. I tell people all the time, like, camp and a campfire, you know, it's funny because a good cigar, a little whiskey, and it's amazing to where you can go from a dirty joke to sipping on some whiskey to talking about the Lord and how blessed you are.
Sure.
And so obviously some people might even hear me say that and say, well, that ain't religion and that ain't what a follower. But for me, that's where a lot of things come together. And for me too, you know, talking about a divorce, I've been through divorce. I've been through some situations some things that I was done wrong on, and then a lot of things I did it wrong by myself to where like that was me.
Yeah.
Like that there was nobody that put that on me other than my stupidity or my ignorance or me being stupid. And so with that, you know, you never really went to talk to anybody other than a good friend that maybe been through similar situations. And deer camp and that campfire and a story and laughter that turned into nearly tears based on the subject.
Oh, yeah.
I think, again, getting back to the whole administration, talking about, you know, labor and work and making a living, the ignorance of what we do in our pursuit to fill a tag is way deeper than what so many people who don't know. And I always tell people, it's like, hey, man, you know, it's old worn out saying, don't knock it till you tried it. But hunting is a sacred kind of a vibe, at least for me, and I know that it is for you. And so,
well, Michael, if you think about it, we are the descendants of the greatest hunters in the history of mankind. Had we not been able to hunt, we wouldn't be here today. That's why we're here, is because we could hunt. Okay,
yeah.
So get over it. Okay,
That's right.
If you don't like the soup, get out of the kitchen. But you know, hamburger comes from cows. It doesn't come from the grocery store.
That's right.
So you know, there's a massive disconnect about hunting and also sensitive animals. You know, I've been beat up big time on the internet for hunting elephant or hunting rhinoceros, I picture people say I'm holding a cheetah, I'm holding a leopard, but I've been beat to hell on the internet for that. I was the first guy to ever get canceled. I was canceled before it was cool to be canceled. And
that was around 13, if I remember, 12 or 13.
Yeah, it started. Yeah, it started.
It might have been earlier than that, but that was the first.
You know,
when
it started when I started pushing back against Obama and what they were doing, because it was a personal attack against me and my business. Right? They were suing my franchisees and suing me, telling me I'm taking advantage of people. And I never knew politics was like I was a Pollyanna. Like, this was America. Remember, my dad was mixed race.
Right.
My mother's an immigrant. I'm a dyslexic. Can't read. Graduated second to the last in my class. And now I'm a billionaire. And like all I want is I just want everybody to be able to do what I did. I just wanted to. You want an opportunity? You want to work hard? Let me show you how to do it. You want to help? Let me help you.
Roadmap of the American dream.
A
simple roadmap of the American dream.
Yeah, right? and you define what your level of happiness is. That's your definition. It's not somebody else to define it. It's you. And so, but anyway, long story. Yeah, but anyway, so you know, people are, you know, the ignorance is just, it is what it is. I mean, you know, in Botswana, there's 130,000 elephants. They're procreating at 7% a year. Okay, so let's just call it 7,000 elephants every year. When I was hunting elephants in Botswana, they were taking like 300 or 400 bulls a year out of Botswana. What they really should have had us doing is they should have had us taking out, you know, enough animals to where it had an effect on the herd, and then literally taking that and taking and processing all that meat and packaging it and getting it to people that could consume that meat, right? Mm-hmm. But if you go to Botswana and could see the overpopulation of elephants and the devastation that they can do to the fauna and to the woods, a herd of elephants can come in 100 acres and they'll break it all down and decimate and just tear it apart in the desert.
Decimate other species that would live there or could thrive.
Absolutely. And so, emotionally, the elephant hunting stopped in Botswana, and then it recently reopened. I was in Botswana again this last June, and I was flying over the ground in a helicopter, and I saw all these squares in the jungle and in the floor in the forest. And I asked my pilot, I said, "What's all these squares?" He said, "Well, they stopped hunting in '07. And so there was no longer value on the game. So all the indigenous people and the tribes people are now raising cattle. So they're poisoning all the wild game, and they're raising cattle because the wild game is eating the cattle's grass, and the cattle is their feed. So they stopped the hunting. All the local people were living off the wild game and having the jobs from the hunters coming in, right? They stopped the hunting. Now they're poisoning the game so that they could grow the cattle. And the fauna in Botswana, I mean, it looks like you're flying over, America now with all these in the middle of nowhere.
Which, what's crazy is the same thing. They're trying to protect these elephants, and inevitably, let's just call it PETA, that's attacking these hunters. Yeah. And guess what now? The cattle, well, where does the cattle end up? On a McDonald's cheeseburger?
Yes.
Might end up on a Jimmy John's roast beef sandwich.
Yes.
Might end up somewhere in everybody's house, including these PETA members. And so again, getting back to the ignorance.
Yeah.
Now think about this too. Yeah. This is what blows me away. You was talking about how when this woke culture, essentially, you're right, that was in the beginning. That's when woke wasn't cool, right?
Yeah.
But think of this to where we have transcended to where the descendants hunted. If you lived in Alaska, or if you lived in Georgia or Illinois, if you didn't learn the food chain,
if you didn't learn to hunt, you didn't eat.
You didn't eat. If you didn't understand what the good Lord's natural resource is, you didn't eat because you didn't run to the store. You didn't run to a chain to get you a sandwich or get you a meal. And so I find it amazingly, unbelievably crazy, especially if you look at the things that people say are right, that different cultures are fighting for. I'm all about that. I mean, you can be as strange and weird and worship what you want, do what you want, but how amazing that they thought they had something on this Jimmy John. Jimmy Liautaud. He hunts. We got him.
Yeah.
We're going to cancel this guy.
Yeah.
He actually shot an elk.
Yeah.
Now think about that.
Yeah.
Think about when we have a friend like Blake Shelton that has to think harder about sending me and you a picture of maybe a whitetail that he shot on his ranch.
Yeah.
Perfectly legal. Never mind the hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars that he spent on making sure the habitat was correct, that not just the whitetail survived, but everything, including grasshoppers and birds.
Yeah.
But yet he decided, instead of going to maybe the grocery store down the road, he said, I'll shoot this whitetail. And I can
have
enjoy
me some
this.
Organic meat.
That's all we ate when we hunted with him this past spring.
Well, we eat organic.
Eat organic.
Eat organic,
It's
right?
the ultimate organic.
Ultimate organic.
So
but for sure they got to think twice about the pictures now. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, it's I think it's swung pretty far. I think it's got to swing back, but you got to think twice about it, Michael, because it's any public figure that's a hunter, they're incredibly, and they should be cautious about it because it's the speed of the internet is ferocious. It's way more powerful than all of us. And
which that part I think is a good thing to, I don't want to take all your day, but I could talk to you forever. But speaking of that, and you think about your hunting and your adventures, so immediately most people think that the people that attack people like you, a successful entrepreneur, or even me who represents the hunting industry. So obviously my pictures, anything I shoot immediately is cast upon the internet, and people can celebrate it or they can hate on me as well.
Sure.
But I think what our hunting community don't realize is to take somebody like you. If you read, like I read some of the comments that was on the YouTube posted of this 460-inch bull, which you invested, you bought a governor's tag, from what I understand, and you shot one of the biggest bulls to ever have existed on public ground.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, if you look, it's not just PETA that's the ones that's attacking. It's us. It's our own brother. It's our own people that do the same thing, and basically on your success, you have this hate. And so as people are maybe listening to this, and you think about whether it's you, Jimmy John, or a Blake, or a Clint Boyer, or Vince Neal. I thought it was amazing. He shot his first pheasant and goose and duck
at the Hooray
Ranch in Kansas, and he was blown away. His fiance Rain at the time was just fascinated and had a blast. And I thought, oh my gosh, you know, I'm a big Motley Crue fan. Now we got Vince Neil in the Brotherhood, right? So I'm high-fiving and hugging his neck. Yeah. And I've got my Motley Crue shirt on the whole time, right? So I'm so pumped. But with that said, if somebody's listening, please, if you're a hunter and you want to protect the culture of it, obviously, if you look at all the different communities, we got to figure out a way to support each other. So it should be that you are taking a Luke Bryan who loves the outdoors. You're taking a Blake who loves the outdoors and celebrate them. But so many times our own community is the one that cannibalizes each other.
Sure.
And so speak a little bit about that. And I think it's important that you, because I know you're very humble and very, even though you're transparent, you're not one of these guys that like to say, well, I spent this to do this and that. But I do think it's important if you talk about Botswana, you talk about this governor tag, is where this money is spent. And do you have even an idea when they shut down Botswana elephant hunting, what it would cost people there as far as that went back into the community? For instance, a breakdown of a typical elephant of what you would buy. So I'm thinking this is probably anywhere from 40 to 60 grand to buy a hunt like that, right?
No.
But where does the money go to?
It's more so every community is assigned X number of tags and X number of in their area, right?
Right.
So the government, a tag's about $100,000.
Wow.
And so the government is going to take about $10,000 of it, and as a fee to the government, and the outfitters,
so a tax,
right,
essentially,
and all that, and the outfitter's probably going to take maybe $30,000 or $40,000 of it, and the other $40,000 or $50,000 will go to the community that lives in that area. So they'll get that. That'll go into their community fund that will buy them a tractor, that will build them a water well, that will rebuild the fence around their mud grass huts, or
possibly build a school,
or whatever it is. But the local indigenous people, they get the jobs from the safari operators, right? They're going to poach the animals anyway. They're going to eat the meat no matter what. So when an animal is harvested and processed, they get all the meat. So they get the job, they get all the meat, and they get the money, and then they get their health. They get their health, and they get their daily ration every single day. And so their whole families are looked after. So, and then the meat, what they do is they dry that meat in the sun, and then they have these arid sheds that are there. They have arid racks in them, and it's dried meat like machaca, and they just reconstitute that in the dry season when the water goes away, and they eat it all season long until the hunters come back again. So it's a natural symbiotic way of utilizing Mother Nature to sustain everybody. And so when you take the hunting away and there's no hunting, that's when the poaching comes in, and they're slaughtering these animals and taking the ivory anyway, right?
And when there's no black market,
and when there's no dollar value on the animal, and the only value is the ivory, that's just what happens,
right? Because
it's just the way free enterprise works. And so anyway, now they've started elephant hunting again in Botswana.
I did hear that.
And somehow there's a connection between that for England, the English government, and Botswana. And they said, wait, hold on a second. And the new president of Botswana said, Mr. England, come on over here and get as many elephants here as you'd like to take, and bring them back to England, and you can take care of them. In the meantime, we've got a problem here, and we need to harvest some of these elephants because they're becoming a real menace. It's really gonna get bad. There's gonna be not enough food for them all. They're gonna starve to death. I mean, it's that overpopulated. So
it's amazing to hear that, because once again, we've kind of, these podcasts, you don't know where they're going to go, and it seems like we're talking about education and understanding the reality versus the ignorance of this perception that some people have.
Sure.
And another perception that I've never had a chance to buy a governor's tag.
Yeah.
But people don't realize, I think, what that governor's tag does and what kind of money. So in one way, buying a governor's tag, best I can understand it, is really a form of philanthropy in a lot of ways, other than you do get this prize of having a chance to hunt this animal, because it's given back to that state and to that area.
For sure. Oh, it is philanthropy. It's a donation. So, you would pay anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000 for a governor tag, and it gives you the extra privilege to hunt more days than a normal draw tag, right? And then they take all that money, and it goes back to the enhancement of the wildlife habitat. So that's what happens with the money. So for somebody to be able to have that opportunity, it's an amazing opportunity for sure. But it's also a way to very efficiently raise funds for wildlife. I had I've done it in Montana. I bought the Montana Bighorn sheep tag. I bought it 4 times. And I've given the state of Montana over $1 million for the Montana bighorn sheep population. I got to be so close with the Montana Department of Wildlife, and Shane over there, who's in the Missouri Breaks, is our buddy over there that we communicate with and talk to all the time. When I spent 4 years doing that. Anyway, Shane had said that there was a farmer that had a herd of domestic sheep. And he was concerned about the wild sheep and the domestic sheep coming together, because the domestic sheep are inoculated and against this disease called pastorella, which is a disease that the sheep get in their lungs, and the domestics are inoculated. They've been vaccinated, right? And so when their nose goes on the grass, and the wild sheep gets that same liquid juice from the nose of the wild sheep. The inoculated domestic sheep is fine, but he passes on that pastorella to the wild sheep and will take out an entire wild sheep population. So Shane called me and said, "There's a guy's got 150 sheep. Would you be interested in buying his domestic sheep and replacing it with cattle, way to his advantage, so we could incent him to get rid of these sheep?" It was just a side deal we did, and I just did it, and I bought the sheep, processed the sheep. I bought the guy a herd of cattle, and we took those sheep. Nobody even knows about that. But I have been so in love with the Missouri Breaks and the bighorn sheep there that I just did it, because it's our sheep. It's not my sheep. It's our sheep. It's our sheep herd, and I'd seen it and gotten to know it. So that's something that I did. Another opportunity during that same journey, Willie Hedinger, who's my sheep guide. Willie also works for the Taos Pueblo, New Mexico Indian Reservation, and they auction off a couple tags every year. And their sheep were completely gone. 20, 30 years ago, the Foundation for North American Wild Sheep did a fundraise through these tags that we're talking about, and they did a sheep transplant where they took sheep from Montana and they put them at the Taos Pueblo, New Mexico Indian Reservation up at 14,000 feet. They proliferated so well that they moved down the mountain, across the valley, down in the Grand Canyon, and another whole herd established in the Grand Canyon. And now they got this huntable population of sheep. And then now the sheep now proliferated so well that they started going across the highway and up another mountain on the other side of the highway. And during the rut, what was going on, Michael, is the sheep are running across the highway getting hit by cars. And they said, "Jim, we've got an emergency right now.
Is that a Waddell subspecies of sheep? Because I got like 5 or 6 kids, so I know something about expansion."
You know something about expansion? Yeah, there you go, buddy.
So now these sheep are across the highway.
It's the Waddell. It is. It's the
Waddell.
They're doing what the Waddells do.
It's the Waddell species.
So anyway, so they said, "We need a fence now." So I paid and I built 2 miles of fence on both sides of the highway, and then every quarter mile or third of a mile we did a tunnel, and then we put alfalfa hay in the tunnel once I built the fences, and we drew all the wildlife through these tunnels. And now the sheep are going back and forth. They're all trained. They're going through the tunnels, and I just did that. Now, I'm not a Pollyanna, but I did it because, damn it, I want to take care of this wildlife, and I want my children to be able to hunt sheep. And the hunting at the Taos Pueblo Mexican Indian Reservation is incredible. But otherwise, we're just going to keep getting hit by cars. So it takes initiative like that. You got to do stuff like that. You got to move and you got to act. And because of the people that I met in Montana, I did that at the Taos Pueblo. So pretty cool,
That's amazing.
Man.
In the meantime, I hadn't heard one damn story about PETA shelling butter beans on the porch and giving them to the homeless. Not one story. And so I do hope in hearing these stories, because one thing I've learned about you, you do give back a lot, but you do it anonymously, meaning that's old school. Yeah. That's what old school people did is, maybe this come from deep down like your father, to where if you felt in you that this needs to happen, you do it. Not that you needed to write up in the paper. You didn't need to come in here. Some of this, I'm so glad you're sharing on this podcast, because people need to know these stories. One is because from me being your friend, I hope that there's one person who wrote one of those ugly comments on YouTube about this particular elk here in the lodge that realizes, oh my God, the success of what this guy has had, he has given back. And it might be me, it might be one of those guys that wrote this insane, mean stuff that has a chance to hunt one of those sheep maybe in this Indian reservation one day. Sure. He might draw a tag there. He might draw a tag in Montana and get to hunt a sheep that otherwise would have not been there because of this particular disease that maybe would have run rampant because of this domestic sheep herd. Sure. So again, getting back to the ignorance. People think they know everything, but they don't. There's things that I didn't know, but you learn through living. And again, it gets back to that journey. And so it just blows my mind. And even on this particular elk that I keep referencing, because I love elk. I mean, obviously you and I had a chance to hunt turkey for the first time. I love to interact with animals, and elk give you that chance to manipulate through calls like a turkey. And inevitably, as much as I love turkey, there's nothing more intriguing than an elk, because in reality, it's a 700-pound turkey. They're wanting to proliferate, or breed, or they're walking around, literally, just completely love crazed and hoping for their opportunity to breed. And so you can, manipulate them. And so I love that. And so this elk that you shot, 460 inches, I think, more than that, but a giant, biggest elk ever shot on public ground. But with that, I know it was an Arizona governor's tag, but in a situation like that, the money that went back into the state, I would imagine was, a lot of people can't understand putting couple hundred grand maybe into a tag.
Sure.
So to break it down in layman's terms for some people listening that might not understand it, well, obviously in my town that I grew up in, Manchester Blue Devil football, you could join the touchdown club. If you was in the touchdown club and maybe you gave $40 a year, $50 a year, when you walked into the stadium, you had a little better seat. You had this section. Maybe it was a place you could bring in a cushion.
Yeah.
And because you gave $40 or $50, and I never heard anybody say, look at these arrogant people getting a chance to come in. You celebrated it. So for the life of me, hunters that's listening to this, it's you. This is not PETA. This is not, these completely purple-haired liberals who's, wearing vagina mask as they're protesting some particular thing. This is us. This is country men and women and boys and girls that are hating on somebody like a Jimmy, or somebody even like me that might get a chance to hunt or do something or explore the wilds of Botswana or whatever it might be, that needs to realize inevitably you just had a very, very expensive ticket into the touchdown club. And for however that state decided to use this several hundred grand, it might range from 50 grand to who knows.
Sure.
But can you explain your feelings on that, on the whole situation?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, Michael, I started hunting elk at the White Mountain Apache Indian Reservation in 2001. It's in Arizona. And I hunted there for about 15 years. And it's amazing elk hunting out there. And then during that journey, I always wanted to shoot a 400 6x6, and I just kept going. And, maybe out of the 15 years I hunted there, maybe I took 7 bulls. And then I hunted in Utah a couple times. I shot a nice bull on the Pavant in Utah maybe 10 years ago. And I wanted to shoot a 400-inch 6x6 bull. And so I bought the governor tag in Utah 2 years in a row before Arizona, or 3 years in a row. And was it the governor tag or the Boulder tag? Maybe I bought a Boulder's unit tag, and I forget exactly what it was in Utah, but it was expensive. It was a $100,000 donation. And then 3 years in Utah, I never shot one.
Wow.
And so we decided, after talking to Chad at A3 in Arizona, to go ahead and buy the governor tag in Arizona. And we targeted a 6x6 that we had trail cameras of. And the guy that had the governor tag before me, you have the right to hunt the fall season through the winter, and then they shed, and then you can hunt up again until August 15th.
So essentially it's a year, it's good for a year.
Yeah, it's 364-day tag. And then I started August 15th. Well, the target bull that we were targeting, and we had trail cameras on, and the reason we bought the tag was he was like a 430 6x6. This thing was unbelievable. It's like a 165 or 175 8-point whitetail buck, right?
Yeah.
It's as good as they get. And so July 28th, I get a phone call. This guy didn't take a bull in the fall. He waited. And he was an older guy, and he was a bow hunter, and he was tired and fatigued. He said, I'm just going to go sit a water hole. I'll shoot the first mature bull that comes out. Sure enough, our target bull comes out. He arrows it and gets it. I get a call that he had shot our bull, and they were so bummed. I said, guys, this is a man that had the balls to wait a whole year and to do what he did. You congratulate that man. Bravo.
Right.
Nice job, fella. We'll figure it out.
That in itself is noble.
I mean, incredible. So I just changed the karma and changed the vibe of the team that I had. And 2 days later, somebody saw a picture of the bull that on Instagram or Facebook. They saw a picture of this bull. I think some lion hunters or some lion hunters had seen it and take a picture of it. Well, the A3 team went over to this unit in 5 days. They found the bull and they found where it was living. And it was like August 4th, they found the bull, and I had to wait till August 15th. So Willie, my sheep guy, and a couple of the guys from A3, they went there and they camped out on the mountain and they just lived on the mountain and glassed this bull every day. It had water, it had the beautiful acorns, and it was in a real safe place. And they spent 10 days living with this bull, and just crossing their fingers that the thing wasn't going to scram. And because we'd been 3 years didn't shoot one, and given that money all to the state of Utah, and been hunting the White Mountain for years and killed 7 out of 15 years. And I'm finally waiting for my opportunity. and I arrived on August 14th, and August 15th went in the morning, and Willie, my sheep guy, they had gone in and they tried to find an area to harvest this bull to get closer than the 1,000 yards that we were glassing it from. But it had been burned and grown over so much that there was really until he was going to move. It was total cover, but I couldn't get above it. The only way to be above it was at 1,000 yards. So when we walked in on it, and we got a call on the radio that they got it in the camera, but they're in the spot and scope, but they're going to have to wait. And I've been to the gunwork shooting school, and I've shot sheep at 500, 600, 700 yards with my 7 mag. I never shot 1,000. And so I called the guys at Gunworks and I said, listen, I may be shooting 1,000. He said, Jimmy, just do what we taught you. Just exhale, keep your eye open the whole time. Just do what you learned you were shooting the gong at 1,000. You just go do your thing. Just do it. So I'd never even heard of anybody shooting an animal 1,000 yards. And I just trusted the guy that sold me the gun. I'd probably taken it on 15 sheep hunts and had been successful with this 7 mag. And we got to the mountain and got to the top, and the guys there were not expecting it to go down, and we started laying down pads and getting myself ready. So you
got this bull at 1,000 yards.
1,019 yards, corrected to 950 or something like that. And so I just dialed it in and got there, and Wimpy was with me, and Wimpy says, I think shit's getting real here, man. And so I shot it and hit it, and shot it again and hit it. And so you started by saying, Jimmy, how do you not be upset by those people that are so upset with you? Yeah. The thing's been viewed.
Especially when they're supposed to be one of us to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying too, essentially, you go to Walt Disney World, and this is what I'd like to tell those people, and you can, and I hope I'm explaining this, because it's not that you got to be mad, or what I don't understand, the way I look at you, if we go to Walt Disney World, and I've been there, I have no patience. And at the time I went to Disney World, I couldn't afford to go to Disney World in the first place. But I would have took a small bank loan to buy that fast pass because I don't like lines. I don't have the patience to even wait at Applebee's to go eat.
Sure.
And so I got 5 kids, so I'm buying all these passes for my kids, and we're gonna freaking be the next on the Buzz Lightyear freaking Battle-Rama, rocket ride. But imagine the fast pass that I bought, which you can ride them all free, but I'm paying whatever $50, $60, $100 a piece for all my kids.
Yeah.
But imagine the fast pass, in your case, the governor's tag, going to something good. I don't think Walt Disney decided to give back to philanthropy and help cure cancer, or to put something back in wildlife off my fast pass. So what pisses me off about these haters, you can get mad that you can afford that. You can be jealous of it. Yeah. You heard the earlier part of the story.
Well, that's like being mad at Aaron Rodgers for being able to throw a football, or Tom Brady.
Roger Clemens for throwing a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. I wish I could do it.
Right.
Wish I could rap like Jay-Z, man.
I wish I could drive a car like Boyer, sing like Blake.
Amen.
Amen.
There we go.
Amen. There we go. You know what? It's when you think about it, the thing was viewed 250,000 times. You got 2,000 people bitching about it. You know what? They don't understand it. It was like the community organizer telling me how to run my sub shops. He didn't understand it. When people don't understand it, they don't get it, Michael. They just don't get it. And you know what? They can be mad about it, but if you're mad, you need to take care of your anger on your own,
Yeah.
And so anyway, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? You said, how does it affect me? At first it was upsetting, but then I realized it was 1%. 1% of the people that viewed it complained about it. So I think the majority get it, and we got to celebrate success and celebrate each other's success. I mean, it's so much more fun. It's so much more fun as opposed to bitching about it and being negative about it and the haters.
And and you take somebody who's been hunting elk their whole life, and and packing it up and doing their deal and getting a spike and getting a 4x5, and it's got to be hard to have me coming into town and showing up with a team and optics and guns that can shoot like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I understand that, but it's maybe just, not everybody can throw a football like Tom Brady. And
that's correct.
And so, it is what it is. So I think you just kind of got to get over it.
You do. I think I've learned that. And I think in a smaller way, I've experienced that through working in the hunting industry that, sometimes anything you shoot, well, that's high fence. Or, well, what if it is or what if it isn't? First of all, we've never done one bone collector show in a high fence, but I think inevitably, and I didn't realize it was going this route when we were talking, it really is people's ignorance. Ignorance can go for you or it can go against you. In this case of what you don't know, you better keep your mouth shut. I've learned. Because I've learned it even growing up in rural Georgia. I only knew what I knew. There were certain people or certain situations or certain cultures I thought that I would never like. I mean, I remember something that's funny. You grew up in Illinois. Would that be considered across the Mason-Dixon line? That would be a Yankee.
Yeah.
I'm a rebel. You're a Yankee. And I never forget my dad, who I've introduced you through my conversations of telling you about him. I remember my dad, there was a fella that he met, and this guy was from up in New York. And my dad was so amazed and loved him. You know what his exact words was? And it shows you how I was raised. He said, "Man, that was one nice guy." He said, "For a Yankee, that was one nice fella." And it was terms of endearment.
Totally.
So my point is, you realize that really, yeah, okay, the Yankee, the Southern thing, but in reality, we're all just humans. We all just get along. And it seems like that everybody's getting divided in some aspects. But if you really dig through and try to understand certain things, some things I have dug into, and I can't make heads and tails of it, Jimmy.
Yeah.
We won't have to get down to that. We'd have to be here another 2 days. I know you got to get back home, and so do we. But at the same time, I just know this past year, and we'll kind of end talking about whitetail hunting and my experience of having a chance to come to Illinois, and to hunt on some of the land that you've been able to put together with Mark Wimpy, who's somebody I've always looked up to in the hunting industry. He's kind of a name in the industry that flies under the radar. He used to do a lot with Stan Potts, Tom Miranda, and he has shot some extraordinary whitetail. And he's kind of like the mountaineer that was on the Alpinist. If you watch a Netflix, you can watch this story of this kid up in Canada who basically was doing all these things, but he wasn't looking for accolades. To me, that's Mark.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool for me to not only come hunt with you and spend camp with you and some of your friends, but as well as have a chance to kind of hunt and take away, and hunt with Mark. And I learned so much about how he did it, which, our show is going to show that, because I had a chance to even take a buck. And I want to tell you right now, I had the best time. And the whole time I was thinking about being here, I was like, I just wish every friend and all my redneck buddies, all my people from Booger Bottom, my dad could just be here for an hour and experience the love and joy. And for me, first of all, thank you. But how is it a man like you who's got this, and one token, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to kill elk, but you can literally, while I was here, you had Gabe, who was here, who looks after, Kid Rock's place. You had Bobby, another good friend of mine, or Eddie, I'm sorry, another good friend of yours. Is
Blueberry farmer from Georgia.
But randomly, you just had people essentially just right down the road off the street, like, "Hey man, come eat a fine steak and come hunt with me." You wasn't running an outfitting business. And what's your philosophy on, because I see that you got a lot, but not only are you sharing your whitetails, you share everything, and it's almost breathtaking to see, and you don't even know how to repay you. And you made a quote to me, and I'll let you say it, but it stood out, and I've used it since then, about the chocolate cake.
Yeah, well, no, I have a saying, Michael, it ain't no fun to eat chocolate cake alone.
I love that.
It just ain't no fun. And whether it's Gabe or Eddie, the blueberry farmer, or Michael Waddell or Jimmy John or whatever, it really doesn't matter. We all, Since I started this operation in 2007, and I was able to, Mark retired from Caterpillar, I think, in 2015, and I had heard about him and was lucky enough to hire him because I really wanted to hunt big whitetail deer, and I just never was able to do it. And he somehow
was always able to do it. So I hired Mark to show me how to do it. And one thing he told us, you can never go in your woods anymore. I says, what do you mean? Well, you can't sit down the river during the rut. What are you talking about? How are you going to get the big buck?
Yeah.
So he's got us hunting the wind and perimeters and growing miscanthus. And he's got all this, we call it wimpified, the deer never know you're there. And now we got deer that don't even know they're being hunted. And we got, 200-inch deer that are daylighting, that would never, that would just, because they've never been hunted before, never know they're hunted.
Nocturnal.
So, and all of my success, Michael, whether it's my sheep hunting with Willie Hettinger, who has taken me around the world hunting animals, but even with Jimmy John's, I mean, I always hired people that were better than me that could show me how to do it. And I'm a fisherman, and I hunt with a guy named Jody Whitworth, who he is to fishing what you and Wimpy are to whitetails, But I surround myself with people that are really good at what they do, and I try to make it a win-win situation. And as far as sharing it, it is no fun to do it alone, and it's a beautiful thing to create these nature food preserves with deer and turkeys and pheasants. I've got a huntable quail population on a farm here in Illinois. I mean, who has that? And this is all crazy. Just part of what we've done. And so Mark Wimpy is. I mean, I don't know. We've just been really fortunate with Mark. So he created and designed. He didn't create this. I started it, but he fine-tuned it the last 6 years, and then he helped create an operation in Kansas. And so we have here and in Kansas, we run sister operations. And Mark is really he's the deer whisperer, so he's my guy, and he's really shown me how to do it and what to do. So I hang around with people that know what they're doing.
Well, Jimmy, my papa always tell me, you are who you hang around. And sometimes you hang around good people, and sometimes you hang around folks that they say, "Betty, you keep hanging around that joker, you're going to go downhill." And I just appreciate you talking about your journey. And if anyone listens, you'll see, what you was able to share, what some things you did wrong and what you did right, and you learn from successful people. And I just tickled that I had a chance to be part of it and get a little bit of ride and kind of get a little taxi cab and a little bit of your journey. And I just want you to be able to come south now and maybe chase some turkeys with me down there, eat some cornbread and collard greens with me.
I'd love to do that. I'm in, buddy. No, it's been great. What a great journey. What a blast. And how much we really do have in common. Isn't it crazy?
It is amazing. I mean, it blows my mind. Like I said, it's you never know where life takes you. You never know who you're going to meet or what you're going to chance to get to do. And I don't know, man.
And you never know somebody else's story. You never know that because the inside doesn't match the outside.
It doesn't.
You never know. You never know. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share a little about my journey and what we've created here in Illinois and what we've created here in America, man. It's pretty damn cool.
Well, we all get one lap, and so it's nice that this type stuff makes the lap even more fun and colorful. So it's right something else.
Buddy. Right, I got a quarter tank of fuel left. I'm gonna burn it right.
Let's do it, baby. Buying the sausage in the cupboard there.